Well, thank you for your lovely speech. I definitely think you brought up some great points about why we should be more civil in politics in general. And actually the reason why I got involved in politics wasn't that young, I was 16, was because my two best friends, the one was an immigrant from Palestine, and the other one, her family had a very strong background in the Jewish community. Her mom's the president of the synagogue, and they would have discussions about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and I want to know more. So I decided to go online and do some research about it, but it was really hard to find one side or the other and just find the facts. I was lost in all of this fake news and which side bombed the other, and it was just a really unfortunate situation. But from there, I ended up going to a conference in Ottawa, and I really liked politics and kept with it. And I think if we start with positive experiences that are based on facts and other people's truths, we can move forward together. So I was asked today to speak about my experience at Daughters of the Vote. Does anybody know what Daughters of the Vote is? Okay, a few people. Yeah, Lloyd was our member of parliament in Ottawa, and there was 5 people that had Guelph roots, and he was really awesome. He brought us on a tour of the House of Commons, and we got our pictures in the speaker's chair, so I thought it was cool.
And you said you were going back. Yeah, you're going to go back to get the real speaker's chair.
No, I didn't.
Just thought I'd throw it
Someday.
Someday.
So there was 338 young women from each riding in Canada from a variety of backgrounds. They also, at the conference, to make sure it was inclusive to everyone, they had childcare provided, there was no cost affiliated, transportation was provided, and there was elders on site to make it an inclusive space and try to make it positive for everyone. So that April, it was the second time they did host Daughters of the Vote, and it was to recognize the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote. And at this time, there had been more women sitting in the House of Commons for Daughters of the Vote than had ever been elected in Canadian history. And I think that's a problem because our institutions should reflect what our society looks like. We should, if our society is 52% women, we should aim to have 52% of women in these institutions as well. So the goal of the conference overall was to encourage more young women to enter politics or consider a career within the political realm, so as a political staffer or a city councilor, city clerk, and get women into these institutions so we can make decisions and create policies that reflect society overall. My experience with Daughters of the Vote really taught me the importance of listening because I had tonsillitis and I couldn't talk, so I was actually forced to listen to other people instead of keep talking. It showed me that multi-partisanship is difficult. There was a lot of people disagreeing at the conference because they all came from different walks of life, and there's people who are strong advocate conservatives, and there's other people that did not share those ideals at all and thought we should have free education and very ambitious agendas. And unfortunately, it wasn't civil as we wanted it to be. There's people who turned their backs on the Prime Minister and walked out on the leader of the Conservative Party, Andrew Scheer, which is not necessarily the most civil behavior, but they justified their response and explained that to the media, and that was their individual decision, and we do need to respect their decisions to do that as well. So it also really showed how a positive experience in politics can lead to future success. So our fellow daughters at the conference, at least all the 5 that went from Guelph, are involved in a political campaign. Various ones, they're not all on Lloyd's campaign. There's one on the Green campaign and one in Oakville helping out, and they're all being involved in the political spectrum. So hopefully through more conferences that encourage young women to get involved in politics, they will rise one day and run. So in the case of the Better Ballot Pledge, it is a community commitment from citizens and those running for office to stand up against abusive personal attacks and harassment. So what actually happened at Daughters of the Vote as well was another young woman from Edmonton, I believe, was just ridiculed online for condemning Islamophobia in the House, and she felt so uncomfortable. She didn't, I think she put it on her Twitter that she wouldn't comment on anything political ever again because she didn't feel comfortable. She knew she'd be harassed, and she just didn't want to face that again. So it's really important that the first time we introduce people to politics, it's a positive experience. So as I touched on, there are issues women face in politics. For instance, Catherine McKenna needs to have security, which I think is just ridiculous. She's a minister in Canada. I mean, I know ministers in the States have a lot of security. Like when Mike Pompeo came to Ottawa, they shut down the entire road, and I thought there was an ongoing bomb threat and I was gonna die, but apparently that's not Canada, and it shouldn't be that way either. In addition, we've taken really good steps to encourage more women to enter politics. So ways we can do this is increasing paternity leave and sharing that between men and women. So we're encouraging women to stay in the workforce. Or for instance, Karina Gould, she was a great example, and she was the first cabinet minister to ever give birth while she was sitting. And I think that's awesome. And we should have more young mothers involved in politics because they'll understand the difficulties with finding childcare and those sort of things. Yeah. So another point I'd really like to touch on is when I worked for the Prime Minister this summer, and how I thought that was a good representation on how politics is moving forward. When I entered that space, I thought, oh my goodness, like I've seen all these articles online and the Me Too stuff. I'm like, this might be scary. I don't know what to expect. And in reality, we had women's lunches, and all the staff around me were really supportive and mentoring and nurturing. And if we can make all political spaces like that, I'm not sure what it's like in other parties, but if we can make that inclusion for everyone, that would be awesome. So to end off on this, I'd really like to thank everybody for coming today and really consider about how you can help a young person and be a positive role model in their political career, and take that chance to mentor someone else.